Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience.
Hello, welcome back to Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. I'm your host, a Big Les. Make sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, become a part of the Big LEZ'S League community, not only on YouTube, but on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to subscribe. All of the social media, the Instagram, the TikTok, all of that, it is in the description below. So make sure you go ahead and get stuck right into it. Welcome back to another edition of Finals Foresight. They said fortnight for a second there, but Foresight, where we go through and predict the finals series. So far, we've gone pretty well. Only had 2 wrong picks the whole final series. And I think that was, if we go back to finals week 1, we tipped the Bulldogs to beat Manly. We also tipped the Cowboys to beat the Sharks last weekend. Obviously, looking back at the results from that one, the Sharks were able to get the job done against the Cowboys. The Roosters, they were able to get the job done against the Manly Seagulls as predicted, but looked a lot better than what we thought. Now, I did predict that they were going to come out after getting smashed, throughout that game by the Panthers, getting embarrassed by the Panthers in that one, completing better. A few calls went the Panthers' way as well, but the forward pack was dominated by the Penrith Panthers. The Roosters obviously getting Victor Radley back and Jared back. Just the presence of those two guys really helped in getting the win and getting them across the line in this contest. Really tough game of football, really solid game of football, and a very enjoyable one as well. Roosters getting the job done against the Manly Seagulls. Sharks getting the job done against the Cowboys. That means finals week 3. We have the Panthers taking on the Cronulla Sharks and the Melbourne Storm taking on the Sydney Roosters. Now, a lot of people, and including myself over the past few weeks, have said the grand final's locked in. It is Storm taking on the Panthers. We've said that before finals even began. So looking at this week, my opinion's still the same. However, after watching the Roosters and after watching the Sharks, I think if both of those teams play how they did the week prior against the Panthers and against the Melbourne Storm, I think these games will be a lot closer than what people think. I don't think these games are necessarily going to be blowouts unless we get into these games and the Roosters are buggered from the week before and the Sharks are buggered from the week before as well. 2 really tough games last weekend. I do think that there's a real chance where both of these sides could come in fatigued. Penrith and Storm with the week off, they obviously come in fresh, ready to go, and we see some 13-plus scorelines. I just don't think that's how this is going to go. I do think we're going to get 2 very tight, down-to-the-wire games. Storm taking on the Roosters, Panthers taking on the Sharkies. Interesting little fact here between the Storm and the Roosters. I believe the Roosters have lost their last 10 from 11 games against the Melbourne Storm. So obviously not the best record coming into this one. I think they had a similar record going up against the Panthers the other night, and it made it 9 in a row that they've lost against the Panthers. But yeah, look, I still think that the Roosters, as I said, if they play the way that they did the other night, I really do think they are a chance here against the Melbourne Storm. Not saying they're going to win. My predictions are going to be Storm and Panthers, as they have been for the past few weeks. But I do think that they're going to be a lot better of a chance if they play how they did the other night. And I think, as I said, both of these games will be a lot closer if they can get back to that form that we saw last weekend, the Storm and the Roosters. But as I said, I think Storm and Panthers, they're in a league at their own at the moment. I think that they will get the job done, whether it be that 1-12 or 13-plus margin. I do still think it's going to be a Storm and Panthers grand final. Look at what these sides have done. Plus, they get the week off to prepare for this contest as well. Both sides getting the week off, getting well rested, and then coming into this game fresh. That scares me for both Roosters and Sharks. After having to fight their way to this position, 2 really tough games, as we said, with Storm and Panthers both getting the week off, both getting time to rest. I think that we will see the Storm and Panthers win. And I think that's just one of many reasons. As I said, I think both of these sides are in a league of their own. Cleary's coming to this final series ready, prepared. I can't wait to see a lot more footy from Nathan Cleary. Just watching him in that game for the Panthers on the weekend, the last 2 weekends ago now, and just watching Defensively, obviously, there was concerns around that shoulder injury, but defensively, he was up for the task. He came in, he put big hits on, defensively showed that he was up to the mark, and then that got him ready to have the performance that he did as well. Kicking-wise, running-wise, passing-wise, it's a perfect performance 2 weeks ago against the Roosters for Nathan Cleary. He's going to come in with that same mentality, plus a week's rest as well. You look on the other team as well, the Melbourne Storm. Jerome Hughes, he's probably the best player this season and will probably get that Dally M award. Cam Munster's come back and over the past few weeks has really perfected his game. He's gotten used to that left-hand side combination again with new players as well. You got to think at the start of the year, it was a different combination. Obviously, Remus Smith was in there. I think they also had Xavier Coates, but they had Remus Smith. Sean Blore wasn't the left back rower. It was a completely different combination to what he has now. And what he's done with that combination has been really impressive. How they've linked over these past few weeks, and it's really starting to click for Cam Munster, but also the individual efforts that we're seeing from him as well. I really do think that the Melbourne Storm, I think that they're still in a league of their own slightly, but Penrith are just right behind them. And it's going to be a really interesting grand final. I think Melbourne are good enough to beat Penrith in that grand final still. Look, we said that we were going to come back to this game and sort of dissect it a little bit more and see if my opinion had changed. My opinion still hasn't changed. What I will say as well is, again, after watching both of their games, Melbourne v Sharks and then Penrith v the Roosters the other week, I still was more impressed with how Penrith, went from where they were the week before finals and weeks leading into finals to where they were against the Roosters. I was more impressed with that transformation than I was with Melbourne, because Melbourne had been playing that footy for pretty much the last 10 rounds of the competition. They were peaking at that right time, but they were at a very high level leading into finals, where the Penrith Panthers, they weren't. They were grinding into games, grinding wins. And we were even saying coming into the final series that if Penrith have to grind games like that, they probably won't win against the Melbourne Storm in a grand final. But now we're sitting here after watching that Penrith and Roosters game, and I think that we've got a lot more clarity as to Penrith can smash you in this grand final. Let's not underestimate this side that has been winning comps for the past few years and what they can do. However, what I will say is it is the first time that Penrith haven't come into a final series dominant and clearly the best team in the competition for me. It is the first time where they've had to have a huge leap in terms of their ability and in terms of their form, compared to previous years where they've pretty much carried the form on throughout the entire season. But yes, obviously gone to that other level come September. But this has been a much larger jump, as is what I'm trying to say, compared to other seasons. So, look, as I said, it will be a very interesting game at the moment, and we'll obviously talk a little bit about it in the reviews for both of these games going into the back end of this weekend after we've watched both of these performances. But I still think at the moment that Melbourne are a little bit above where Penrith are right now. And I think the thing with Melbourne is that they've been doing this all season. The question I sort of have for Melbourne is, do they have another level to go to? I sort of think they do. I really do think that they have another level to go to, and that's going to be even more scarier for Penrith if this is the grand final we see. But it's the grand final I think is going to happen. Let me know what your thoughts are. Are the Roosters and Sharks a chance this weekend? They're going to be two great games. They're going to be two close games, in my opinion. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I won't be too surprised. But I really do think we're going to see some close games of football, and I can't wait. There you go. That's Finals Foresight, the final Finals Foresight for this season before we obviously go into the grand final. You get a massive grand final preview when we come to it. It might be on YouTube. We'll have to wait and see. But most likely it will be. We're going to start to do some interviews too for the off-season, getting those sorted currently with a few ex-players, just getting sorted their availabilities and if it's going to be before or after the grand final where we record them. But we're getting that all set up for you. It's going to be a big off-season for Big LEZ'S League. Make sure you stay on the ride and make sure if you haven't already to become a part of the Big LEZ'S League community. Subscribe to the YouTube, to the Spotify, Apple Podcasts. There's exclusive content like previews and reviews of games, which we've sort of given you a bit of a taste on here on the YouTube as well. But you can get all of that exclusive content, review, previews of games, news reactions, We get that all on the podcast for you. And make sure you go ahead and click on the link below and get subscribed to the Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you are listening to this on Spotify, make sure to leave a Spotify comment in the comment section below on Spotify, and I will answer all your questions and queries and thoughts in there. So make sure you leave a comment if you are listening on Spotify. We will see you guys in the next one.